Welcome to Pookie Podcasts. In this collective presentation, we examine leadership and organizational culture within the South African agribusiness sales team operating under a multinational European organization. We've structured this discussion explicitly to address all four core relevant questions, which is around relevance, utility, research analysis, and how this is presented. While this business has a strong external potential, the issues lie in the internal leadership that has not been strategically harnessed. The evidence that the discussion or the team will enable is that the authoritarian management, weak development support, and low psychological safety together will demonstrate how these failures shaped a dysfunctional culture affecting people, performance, sustainability, and will present practical, theoretical, grounded interventions. Firstly, let me just introduce myself. I'm your host today, Phil May. On the call, we have esteemed colleagues, including Tabiseng Sonono, Sibusiso Matlangeni, Stefan Honeyball, Kabzela Mokoka, Mohammed Imran Khan, Kosinati Mashine, Lati Manka. So let's start with the question of this discussion, right? Firstly, this is an agriculture multinational business we're looking at into. It's a European, a Eurocentric kind of view of leadership style, right? Looking at the South African context of an Afrocentric organization, we look at the South African subsidiary, we go further into the local agribusiness sales team based out in Limpopo, and we look at the diverse cultures and dynamics that involve these all elements. So why this matters is the paradox that strong external brand and growth ambition could sometimes prohibit future and outward-looking leadership styles. So to not go on any further, I'll hand over to my colleague, Stefan Honeyball, to take us through what we term as direction and leadership style.
Thank you, Phil. Our first problem was that though the company had a vision and a mission statement, it had no clear strategy to implement the plan. Every salesperson was expected to develop his own market strategy for the area that he was operated in, and sometimes this would clash from area to area. The sales company had a major sales focus, and sales had to be achieved at all cost. Thus, there was no client focus, neither customer satisfaction, and as you can imagine, not a huge amount of repeat business. Also, products were regularly being launched and introduced without proper market research or regulatory approval. Thus, it would create tension and conflict with competitors as well as with distributors of the company's products. The second problem that we identified was the authoritarian behavior of management. The CEO of the company was a former salesman while the company was still small. Though a competent salesman, he was not a competent manager, and he probably had low levels of self-awareness and EQ. His aggressive and bullying behavior during meetings didn't win him any friends, nor did it command respect. It rather led to low relationship currency, causing anxiety and distress within the sales team.
So how did the sales team experience the leadership style here, Stefan, of the company?
The transformational leadership was completely absent. The CEO failed to inspire, motivate, or stimulate mental growth of employees. There was no safe space where people could grow or experiment. Thus, employees didn't buy into the vision or walk the extra mile for the company. Leadership was over-dependent on transactional leadership, where coercive power was used to get short-term results rather than long-term commitment. Over to Imran.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, Phil. So let us explore some of the organizational challenges that speaks to capability, leadership, and culture. Let me start with training and development. One of the salesmen is a farmer by profession, which he had done all his life until he had joined the company. He was immediately assigned to the sales team. He stated that there is no mentorship and training about sales, marketing, or client expectations, and felt that he was thrown into the deep end. Secondly, the sales team are not receiving adequate product or field knowledge support. Sales employees are not familiarized with the product that they need to sell, including the safety profile, reconstitution instructions, and specifics about the products. An example is imported products that come with package inserts in foreign languages only, like Portuguese, and there is no support from management to assist in interpreting these. As a result, staff are pushed into what can be described as an competent insecurity state, where they are forced to self-teach in order to cope, driven by an environment that rewards performance and are expected to perform at high levels and achieve sales targets as the main KPI. This creates a feeling of incompetence and self-doubt in the face of clients.
I see, Imran, you mentioned nepotism and career growth. How did this manifest, and what is the impact on the organizational structure that has been witnessed within this business?
Thanks, Phil. With regards to nepotism and career growth, appointments are widely seen as unfair and not based on merit. The case in point is that one is the appointment of the new CEO. The process was flawed as the position was not advertised and did not have any formal interview processes. Senior management was consulted and they communicated that the candidate lacked the experience, qualification, and competency for the role, but he was appointed anyway as he was related to the outgoing CEO. So high potential internal employees and external candidates were overlooked and succession planning remains weak. The impact of this was that employees felt that there was no potential for career development and growth, and the outcome is a thin leadership pipeline and a growing disengagement amongst capable talent, resulting in a mass exodus of staff to competitors. This also relates to the next point of psychological safety. Employees feel unable to speak openly without fear of victimization. There are no trusted reporting channels to report employee grievances, and many of them just remain silent. In response, informal coping subcultures emerge, fragmenting the organization even further. So in simple terms, when people don't feel supported, treated fairly, or safe to speak, performance just doesn't drop, it deteriorates in ways that are difficult to recover from. And that's the real risk here, not just underperformance, but long-term organizational decline. Thank you. I now hand over to Sibusiso.
Oh, thank you, Imran. Thanks, Phil. Imran has explained this nicely. As I'm taking you through the impact of this type of leadership, we must look through it through the lens of negative entropy. In leadership, if you are not investing in trust and safety, the system usually fails. As our analysis on slide 12 by Brakevi, this team is trapped in a self-reinforcing toxic cycle. It begins with fear-based leadership, where the management defaults to force power leading through the fear of punishment. And in such cases, usually psychological safety is usually at stake. Under this stress, we see leaders defaulting to destructive driver behavior, especially be perfect and hurry up drivers. When a leader demands perfection in a high-pressure environment, the team learns that mistakes are ending careers. This leads to silence. And in the technical field like agribusiness, silence is a massive operation risk.
So Sibusiso, you mentioned here that when a leader demands perfection in a high-pressure environment, the team learns, that the mistakes are career-ending, essentially, right? How so? Why is the silence a risk for the P&L eventually of the business?
Yeah, it's because, when people are afraid, people are prone to errors, and those errors, they become hidden. And then critical market intelligence, field level quality issues unsurfaced up until it's too late to fix them. You end up with a fragile performance. You might hit numbers this quarter, but the system might brittle in the long run. This leads to a broke down psychological contract. You get fast feelings, people feeling like they're not worth it. They have anxiety and they don't have confidence. That's when you end up losing great talent, and your team, they just coming to work. They're not innovative. So just a takeaway on this, Paul. Silence is not alignment. It's often just a fear wearing a mask. To fix such things, because you can see now it affects the performance of the team. To fix it, you don't have to rely too much on just getting up the sales. Sale doesn't always grow the psychological factor, but we need a new leadership architect system. So I think Nati will take you through the leadership awareness with that. Thank you.
Sorry, I was speaking while muted. Thank you, Zbu. Thank you, Phil. I think when it comes to looking at leadership awareness, one would need to look at a mindset shift within the organization by basically using the self-determination theory, right? And this requires one to have a mindful leader. And that basically means that management needs to be aware of their internal campus and respond intentionally to challenges that the business might be facing. And this also allows them then to improve real-time decision making and allowing the leadership to be more consistent within the organization. Making this mindset shift does require management to actually apply the self-determination theory, which emphasizes autonomy as a driving motivator for the team. Now, what this means is that the shift that the team needs to make is that they need to focus less on extrinsic motivational factors such as reward and pressure, and look inwards in terms of intrinsic motivational factors where people serve with purpose and ownership of their tasks. So Phil, in practice, this creates a space, a workspace of autonomy, which gives the employees a choice and control over their work, but it also helps the employees to feel a sense of ownership and accountability over their work.
So you mentioned something quite important here. I mean, how can leaders balance autonomy in this instance with psychological safety, objectivity to build a high-performing team?
I'm glad you asked that. I think along with autonomy, leaders must be able to build psychological safety within the work environment and a sense of belonging for the staff. And this requires them to create or provide clear structures for the team and provide constructive criticism towards some of the inquiries that they're getting. And this allows the team to then focus on meaningful work and not just rewards that they might be getting from their productivity. So this also raises a question around values. Leaders must be grounded in their core values to ensure a consistent direction within the team and avoid confusion in the organization. And finally, leaders must recognize their cognitive bias. So moving away from gut feeling habits and using data and diverse perspectives from their team to be more objective in their decision making. So in summary, a mindful leader would be then someone who's aware and creates an autonomous environment that is objective, but also in turn triggering an environment where the team is motivated, engaged, and is a high performing team. So I think looking at these factors, and Tabu will continue further on how we can explore this.
So this part of the slide addresses human-centered leadership. We're going to address authenticity, psychological safety, social capital, and psychological capital, which is the hero mentality. The organization is currently at a critical stage. To navigate this crisis, the organization does not need additional policies. It needs authentic leadership. This begins with a commitment to deep self-awareness and an internalized moral perspective. The organization needs leaders who are open books, who embody a relational transparency and balanced processing. This means they must stop hiding the hard truths and start making decisions based on objective reality and core values rather than the ego. But authenticity alone isn't enough. They must create psychological safety. In a crisis, the instinct is to often hide mistakes, but they need to flip that. As leaders, they must actively model failure. When they normalize learning from systemic failure, rather than hunting for scapegoats, they unlock the social pillar of the organization. They move from a culture of fear to a culture of innovation. This trust allows them to build social capital the organization has spent too long in silos. By building trust-based networks and acting as connective resources for their teams, they turn the glue of this company into a competitive advantage. When they share knowledge freely across departments, they aren't just communicating, they are building true organizational resilience. The result of this is psychological capital. The final outcome of this shift is the hero impacting every employee. Through intentional coaching and optimal stretch goals, they build hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. This is psychological capital, the fuel that will drive the organization to their recovery. Ultimately, human-centered leadership should not be viewed as a soft skill, but rather as critical capability that enables an organization to convert a crisis into their most substantial growth.
So, I mean, in a quick response, Tabby, then how does this organizational rebuild the hope and trust, in this company? Like, what are the quick things they can do?
They need to practice relational transparency and model failure. Leaders need to create safety and open communication. This trust will break down silos and it will enforce social capital. It will allow leaders to use it as intentional coaching and to turn shared knowledge into individual hope and resilience, which is the hero mentality. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Tabby.
Osmond.
Lati?
Thank you, Brafil. On this slide, we introduce a structured three-phase roadmap to rebuild core leadership system over a 12-month period. In phase 1, which covers the first 3 months, the focus is on establishing a baseline and creating awareness. This includes implementing 360-degree feedback for all leaders, initiating leadership coaching focused on emotional intelligence and authentic leadership, and introducing what we call safety cycle, along with anonymous pulse surveys to begin restoring psychological safety. Moving into phase 2, from month 4 to 6, the organization begins to formalize these changes. This includes establishing safe and structured speak-up channels, introducing leader-led learning reviews to normalize learning from mistakes, and publishing a transparent recruitment policy to directly address nepotism. Finally, in phase 3, from month 7 to 12, the focus shifts to sustainability and measurement. This includes implementing merit-based assessment centers, developing a formal succession plan, repeating the 360-degree feedback process, and tracking engagement and psychological safety metrics over time. Moving on to slide 10. The slide focuses on 2 critical drivers of sustainable performance, which are capability and purpose. Firstly, capability building. The organization must implement structured, role-based onboarding specifically tailored to the field sales environment. This includes developing field-ready product playbooks that are fully translated and easy to understand, as well as introducing monthly technical workshops and co-training sessions with distributors.
So, Lati, I mean, how do the leaders in this organization use inspirational motivation to align the sales team with the vision, and purpose of the organization?
Thanks, Phil, for the question. Leaders apply inspiration motivation by consistently showing how each person's work contributes to the bigger picture. Leaders inspire commitment and foster a sense of shared purpose. This is not only motivates employees,